There's something nobody tells you about making it. You pay your bills on time. You've built up savings. You invest every single month, no matter what, and you've been doing it for years. On paper, you're doing fine. Better than most people you know. And yet, there are nights when you still feel afraid. And you can't even pin down what of? And that's exactly where it gets weird. You're doing everything right. And the fear is still there. It just put on a different outfit. Now picture this. Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out money is finally not a problem anymore. The mortgage is paid off. Retirement is locked in. Your investment account shows that exact number you spent years chasing. The one you told yourself would change everything. You finally made it. And that night, something strange happens. You're still on edge. Not about bills, not about debt, not about your job. Just on edge. A restlessness with no name attached to it. A tension that makes no sense because you did everything right. You worked. You saved. You sacrificed weekends, vacations, sleep, time with people you love. You got exactly where you planned to be. And still, sitting there in the silence of that night, the weight never lifted. It just stayed, quiet, waiting for its next assignment. And here's the question nobody wants to say out loud, but once you hear it, you can't unhear it. What if I get all of this and still don't feel safe? That question is brutal, because nobody wants to find out the answer. But deep down, everybody needs to know. That's exactly what we're talking about today. Not how to make more money. Not where to invest. Not retirement. We're talking about an invisible psychological trap that messes with almost everyone who's building something, chasing a number, a title, a finish line, and it's probably running in the background of your mind right now, this very second, even if you haven't made it anywhere yet. If you've ever caught yourself thinking, once I get there, then I'll finally feel good, stick around till the end. What you're about to hear could completely change the way you look at every financial decision you're making right now and every one you're about to make for years to come. And if that already hits home, go ahead and hit subscribe. We don't sell financial dreams here. We dig into the invisible beliefs that end up costing you more than any bad investment ever could. And we bring it to you in a way almost no other channel out there actually will. Now I need to show you something. Not a stat, not a chart, a timeline, yours. At 25, you said, once I make more money. At 30, once I pay off my debt. At 35, once I've got 6 figures invested. At 40, once I hit $1 million. At 50, once I can retire. At 60, once I'm sure. Read that again, slowly. 6 lines, 6 decades, 6 different versions of you, different ages, different bank accounts, different lives, different problems on paper. All saying the exact same thing. The once kept changing addresses, but it never changed what it actually was underneath. At 25, it looked like ambition, hustle, the grind everyone romanticizes. At 35, it looked like a smart plan, finally getting your act together. At 50, it started looking like a pattern, even if you couldn't quite name it yet. At 60, it starts looking like an entire life. And what did every single one of those versions of you have in common? Not one of them believed they were already enough. Not the bank account, not the milestone, not the moment. You were never enough for yourself until the next number showed up. And here's the part that actually stings. Every version of you was working overtime to save the next one. Building, sacrificing, putting things off, convinced the next version would finally find some peace, finally be able to exhale. 25-year-old you genuinely believed 60-year-old you would have it all figured out, that somewhere down the line the weight would just lift. Like a switch would flip on its own, no effort required. None of them realized the next one was carrying the exact same switch, still waiting to flip it, working overtime, holding its breath, passing the same unopened gift down the line, generation after generation of yourself, like a family heirloom nobody actually wants, but nobody can put down either. This isn't weakness. This isn't a lack of financial discipline. It's not a willpower problem. You're not broken and you're not doing it wrong. This is just how the human mind is wired. And it's exactly why no number, no matter how big, can ever fix this on its own. The once-I trap isn't a money trap. It's an identity trap. It's the belief that there's a future version of you out there, calmer, safer, finally at peace, and that version can only exist after the next number gets hit. And as long as that belief is running the show behind the scenes, the number is always going to keep changing. It has to. That's not bad luck. That's the design. There's something nobody tells you about building wealth. The more you have, the more you have to lose. Sounds obvious when you say it out loud. But what's not obvious, what almost nobody notices while it's happening, is what that does to your head. Think about it with me for a second. When you had nothing, financial anxiety was concrete. It was the bill due Friday. It was the maxed out card. It was the month that just didn't add up. It hurt, but it was visible. It had an address. You could point at it. Now think about the person who's actually built something, who has savings, who has investments, who, on paper, is doing great, who would look at their 25-year-old self and say, "You made it. Relax." The anxiety didn't go away. It evolved. It got smarter. It got quieter. Now it's not the fear of not having enough. It's the fear of losing what you built. It's the fear of one bad year wiping out a decade of discipline. It's the fear that you already made the wrong call somewhere and just don't know it yet. It's the fear that the market, the economy, some random twist of fate, something completely outside your control, undoes everything it took you years to put together. The bigger the portfolio, the bigger the surface area for fear to attach itself to. And your brain, which should be logging progress, logs threat instead. There's a study out of Boston College that looked at people worth more than $25 million. People most of us would assume have it all figured out, no notes. What the researchers found was honestly unsettling. The vast majority reported real, ongoing financial anxiety. Most didn't feel financially secure. Some described money as a constant source of isolation and pressure, not freedom, not relief, not the exhale they were promised. $25 million and still no peace. Still checking the numbers at 2 a.m. because financial security was never something money gives you. It's a relationship, the one you have with what money represents to you. And until that relationship gets looked at honestly, the number can keep climbing forever, and the anxiety just climbs right along with it, step for step, like a shadow that never gets shorter no matter how bright things get. So here's the uncomfortable question. Has your financial anxiety actually gone down in proportion to your net worth going up? If the answer is no, and for most people, it's no, then the problem was never the size of the number. It never was, and it never will be. Let's go back to that timeline from earlier. At 25, you needed more income. Once that came in, the problem became debt. Once the debt was gone, it became, I need a real emergency fund. Once that fund existed, it became, I need to actually start investing. Once your investments hit 6 figures, it became, I need to hit 1 million. And here's the detail almost nobody stops to notice. At no point in that sequence did the goal disappear once you hit it. Not once. It transformed into a bigger goal. A more sophisticated, more responsible-sounding goal. One that's much harder to question, because who's going to argue with securing my family's future? 100K became 500K. 500K became 1 million. 1 million became, I need enough passive income to actually live off of. And passive income became, I need to make sure my kids and their kids never have to worry about this. Every single win didn't end the race. It just redrew the finish line a little further out, packed it up, and moved it down the road while you were busy celebrating the last one. And here's where the most uncomfortable truth in this entire video lies. The finish line never stops moving, because it was never about the number. It was always about the feeling that number was supposed to deliver. Sit with that for a second. When you say, "I'll feel safe once I hit X," you're packing an emotion, security, peace, enoughness, into a number. But emotions don't live inside numbers. They live inside how you relate to what you already have, right now, in this moment, today. So when you finally hit the number, the feeling doesn't show up. There's no parade, no exhale, just the number, sitting there, looking back at you. And your mind, which needs an explanation, jumps to the easiest one. That number wasn't big enough. I need more. And the cycle starts again, with a bigger number, and the same broken promise wearing a new outfit. This is why people who've multiplied their net worth by 10, 20, 50 times over their lives are often, deep down, just as restless as they were on day one. Sometimes more. The horizon was never out there, in the market, in the economy, in the next milestone. It's inside the way you learn to look for safety in the first place, early, before you had any money to manage at all, and that's exactly why it never arrives. So here's the question I'll leave you with. When was the last time you looked at everything you've built, and even for a second, thought, "This is enough"? So far, we've talked about what this trap costs you in terms of peace of mind, but there's another cost, one that doesn't show up on any bank statement, any portfolio summary, any net worth tracker, no matter how detailed. And it's probably the most expensive one of all. It wasn't just time, it was presence. It was the conversation that didn't really happen. Because while the other person was talking, part of your brain was already somewhere else, running numbers, planning the next move, calculating the next milestone. It was the family dinner where you were physically at the table, but mentally somewhere else entirely, replaying a financial decision that hadn't even happened yet. It was the trip that got pushed. Once things are more stable, we'll go. And then it became another once, and another, and eventually, nobody even brought it up anymore. It was watching your kids grow up in the background, not because you didn't love them, but because part of you was always somewhere else, working toward a future that promised to bring back the version of you that would finally, actually be there. Fully, present, off the clock. And here's the part that hurts the most. That version never showed up. Because, like we just talked about, the finish line never stops moving. So the time you spent chasing security didn't buy you security. It bought you absence. Nobody tallies this cost because it doesn't come with a number attached. There's no line item that says -1 afternoon with your kid, or -1 honest conversation with your partner, or minus the lighter, easier version of yourself that existed before the race even started. But that cost is real, and it compounds, quietly, year after year while you're not looking. And here's the worst part. Most people only realize how big it got once there's no way left to get any of it back. So I want you to stop for a second, actually stop, and think of one thing you've put off in the name of once I have more security. Could be a trip, a conversation, a moment with someone you love, a personal project sitting in a drawer somewhere collecting dust. Drop it in the comments. Just that one thing, what you've been putting off while waiting for the right number to show up. Because a lot of the time, just putting it into words is the first step toward actually seeing the pattern you're stuck in. And if this is hitting home so far, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps us keep making videos like this. No formula, no easy promises, just the truth most people aren't saying out loud. Now we get to the center of all of this. Everything we've covered so far. The person who made it and felt nothing, the 6 versions of you saying the exact same thing at 6 different ages, the anxiety that grows right alongside your net worth, the finish line that keeps moving, the silent cost that quietly piles up. All of it points to one single conclusion. And this conclusion is going to change the way you think about money for the rest of your life. Most people believe they're failing because they can't reach their number, but that's not what's actually happening. Most people don't fail because they never reach their number. They fail because every time they get close to it, the number changes. Read that again. Slowly. Most people don't fail because they never reach their number. They fail because every time they get close to it, the number changes. It's not a lack of effort. It's not a lack of discipline. It's not a lack of financial knowledge. It's not because you read the wrong books or followed the wrong advice. It's that the goal was never fixed to begin with. It was built on a belief. The belief that somewhere out there, at some future point, you'll finally feel like enough. And beliefs don't have finish lines, they have horizons. And a horizon, by definition, is something you can never reach, because it moves at the exact same speed you move toward it. Every step you take, it takes one too. So the problem was never the goal. The problem was believing the next goal would finally deliver that feeling of enough. This belief is so quiet, so well disguised as responsibility and planning, that most people go their entire lives without ever questioning it. It hides in spreadsheets, in 5-year plans, in just being smart with money. They think they're being prudent, strategic, realistic. But underneath all of that, there's a 25-year-old version of you still waiting for your 60-year-old self to finally have it all figured out. And your 60-year-old self, if nothing changes, is going to be waiting on the exact same thing, from a version of you that doesn't even exist yet, and never will. Stop and think about how many decisions in your life, big and small, were made in the name of that future version. How many times you said no to something today, betting the payoff would come later somehow, some other way, for some other version of you. This is the trap. It was never about money. It never was. It's about a question most people never have the guts to ask themselves, and from this point on, you won't be able to unhear it. So, after everything we just went through, what's the solution? I'm not going to give you one. And it's not because I don't have ideas. It's because the solution most people expect, a formula, a magic number, a 5-step strategy, would just be another version of the same trap. Another once. What I can offer you is different. It's a question, and it might be the most important question you hear all year. When you say you want financial security, what are you actually trying to feel? Take a second with this. Is it peace? That feeling of being able to breathe without that constant low hum of worry in the back of your mind all day, every day, even on the good days? Is it approval? The feeling of finally being seen as someone who made it, someone who doesn't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. Not your parents, not your old friends, not yourself. Is it control? The illusion that with enough money nothing could ever blindside you again? Is it freedom from something that was never actually about money in the first place? An unstable childhood, an old fear, a voice you've been carrying for decades telling you it's never enough, that you're never enough? The answer is different for everyone. But it's there. It's been there the whole time, waiting, except nobody stops long enough to actually hear it, because everyone's too busy chasing the next number. And here's the hardest part to accept. Maybe the number you've been chasing was never a financial goal at all. Maybe this whole time, it's been an attempt to answer a question that no bank statement, no investment account, no net worth tracker could ever actually answer. The feeling of enough was never on the other side of any number. It was available the entire time. It still is right now, while you're watching this. The race just never let you stop long enough to find it. So before you close out this video, here's the question I'm leaving with you. If you knew, for a fact, that this number was never going to stop changing, what would you do differently starting today? Sit with that. Really sit with it. And if you want, drop it in the comments. I promise you're not the only one who needs to think about this. And since we're already on the subject of invisible beliefs that quietly shape your entire financial life, There's a video right here on the channel about another one of these traps. One that affects almost everyone, but almost nobody notices while they're living inside it. It's right there on your screen, and honestly, it's worth every minute.